They say your life flashes before your eyes when you're facing the end. But that's not quite right. It doesn't flash. It doesn't race. It sits down next to you, pulls up a chair, and asks you to account for yourself. My name is Arthur. I'm 74 years old. And 4 months ago, my world, the one I had carefully constructed out of spreadsheets, schedules, and safety nets, collapsed. It happened in a room that smelled of industrial lemon cleaner and bad coffee. The doctor, a young man who looked like he hadn't slept since the 90s, pointed to a grey smudge on a scan. Stage 4. Aggressive. Unforgiving. I remember looking past him, out the window. There was a pigeon perched on the ledge, just ruffling its feathers, completely unaware that my entire universe had just been reconfigured. And the thought that hit me wasn't, why me, or I'm scared. It was much worse. It was, oh, I've spent 74 years preparing for a life I never actually lived. Nobody prepares you for the silence of that first week. You're a ghost in your own house. You watch your wife Martha making tea, and you wonder how many more times you'll hear the kettle whistle. You look at your phone and realize all the notifications, the emails about property taxes, the news alerts, the urgent requests from the board. They mean absolutely nothing. They are static. They are the noise we use to drown out the sound of our own hearts. It was the middle of the second week when the numbness wore off and the grief moved in. Not grief for the future I was losing, but grief for the past I had wasted. I spent 41 years as a senior compliance officer for a multinational logistics firm. 41 years of ensuring other people followed the rules. I was the man who made sure the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. I was reliable Arthur. I was the guy who never missed a deadline, who stayed until 8 p.m. to finish a report that no one would read 3 months later. I did it because it was the right thing to do. I did it because my father told me that a man's worth is measured by the size of his pension and the stability of his chair. But sitting there with that diagnosis in my hand, I realized that for 4 decades I had been an accomplice in my own disappearance. When I was 19, I wanted to build boats. I loved the way a hull felt under my palm, the curves, the math of displacement, the way you could take a pile of oak and cedar and turn it into something that could dance on the water. I had a gift for it. My mentor, an old Norwegian fellow down at the docks, told me I had the eye. But boat building is a gamble. It's seasonal. It's hard on the back. So I took the safe route. I took the desk. I traded the smell of salt water and sawdust for the smell of toner and stale air. I convinced myself I was being a good man. And in many ways I was. I paid for the braces. I paid for the university tuitions. We had a nice suburban house with a lawn that looked like a pudding green. But here is the terrible secret about stability. It can become a coffin if you aren't careful. You build it so thick and so strong that you eventually find you can't get out. After the news, I did something Martha thought was a symptom of the cancer spreading to my brain. I went into the basement. For 25 years, that space had been a graveyard for broken vacuum cleaners, old tax returns, and holiday decorations. I spent 3 days clearing it out. I threw away things I'd been saving for a rainy day, only to realize the storm was already here. I went out and spent a ridiculous amount of money on a high-end lathe, a set of Japanese chisels, and several slabs of raw, beautiful black walnut. The first time I turned the machine on, my hands were shaking. Part of it was the medication, sure, but part of it was the sheer terrifying electricity of doing something that mattered to me. I started small, a bowl, then a lamp base. Then I decided to make a rocking chair for my first great-grandchild, who is due in the spring. Martha came down one evening. She stood at the bottom of the stairs, watching me covered in shavings, my face smudged with oil. She didn't ask if I was tired. She didn't tell me to go lie down. She just looked at me and said, "Arthur, you look like yourself again." I haven't seen that man in 30 years. That broke me. It broke me because she was right. I had been a shadow, a ghost in a suit, performing the duties of a husband and father, while the me of me was locked away in a drawer. What the illness does, what the expiration date does, is it strips away the luxury of the lie. We all live under this grand delusion that time is a renewable resource. We think we have an infinite supply of tomorrows. We say, "I'll travel when I retire," or "I'll start that hobby when the kids are gone," or "I'll tell her I love her when the timing is better." But the timing is never better. The someday you are waiting for is a ghost. It doesn't exist. All you have is the air in your lungs right now and the tools in your hands today. I look back at the things I prioritized and I want to scream at my younger self. I remember skipping my daughter's solo in the school choir because there was a crisis at the office regarding a shipping manifest. A shipping manifest. I can't even remember the name of the company now, but I remember the look on her face when she scanned the audience for me and saw an empty seat. I traded a moment of divine connection for a footnote in a corporate ledger. That is the definition of a bad trade. My son David came over last weekend. He's 45 now, and he's following right in my footsteps. He's a middle manager at a tech firm, stressed out, glued to his phone, worried about his metrics. We were in the shop, and I was trying to show him how to grain match 2 pieces of cherry wood. He kept checking his watch. I finally stopped and took the watch off his wrist. I put it on the workbench, and I said, "David, look at the wood. Feel it. This tree grew for 80 years before it got to your hands. It's not in a hurry. Why are you?" He looked at me, and for a second, I saw the cracks in his armor. He said, "Dad, I just don't have the time to sit around and play with wood. I have a mortgage. I have a career." I told him the truth, even though it hurt. I said, "I had a career, son, and now that I'm at the finish line, I can tell you the career doesn't love you back. The mortgage doesn't keep you warm at night. The only things you take with you are the things you gave away, and the only things you leave behind are the things you made with love." He didn't understand. Not really. Most people won't. They think I'm being inspirational because I'm sick. They think this is the dying man's wisdom. But you shouldn't have to be dying to have the wisdom to live. That's the tragedy of it. We treat our lives like a dress rehearsal for a play that never actually opens. The chemotherapy is hard. I won't lie to you. It tastes like copper and feels like ice in your veins. There are days when the walk from the bed to the workshop feels like climbing Everest. There are days when I just sit in the dark and hold Martha's hand, and we don't say anything because there's nothing left to say. But on the days I can work, those hours are worth more than the 40 years I spent in that office. When I'm shaping a spindle or sanding a joint until it's as smooth as silk, I'm not Arthur the patient. I'm not Arthur the compliance officer. I'm just a man creating something that didn't exist before. I'm leaving a mark that isn't a digital footprint or a line on a tax return. It's something real, something tactile, something that says I was here and I saw the beauty in the world. People ask me if I'm angry. They ask if I'm mad at God or the universe or the cigarettes I smoked in my 20s. I tell them no, I'm not angry at the cancer. In a strange, twisted way, the cancer was the only thing loud enough to wake me up. It was the alarm clock I'd been hitting snooze on for half a century. It's a strange thing, becoming a terminal person. People look at you with this soft, pitiful expression. They talk to you in a higher pitch, like you're a child or a wounded animal. They say, "You're so brave," or "Fight the good fight." I want to tell them, don't look at me. Look at yourselves. I know where I'm going. I know the terrain of my remaining days. But you're walking through a minefield thinking it's a meadow. You're wasting your hours on arguments with strangers on the internet. You're losing sleep over a promotion that will only result in more work and less freedom. You're holding on to grudges against people who have already forgotten your name. You are the ones who need to be brave. You are the ones who need to fight. Because you are the ones who still have the chance to change the ending of your story. I'm working on a project now. It's a jewelry box for my granddaughter. It's made of bird's eye maple with ebony accents. My hands aren't as steady as they used to be, and I've had to start over twice because I messed up the dovetails. A year ago, that would have frustrated me. I would have worried about the efficiency of my time. Now, I don't care about efficiency. I care about the process. I care about the way the light hits the grain. I care about the fact that 50 years from now, she'll run her fingers over this wood and she'll feel her grandfather. She won't know my salary. She won't know my job title. She'll just know that I loved her enough to make something beautiful for her. That is what a life is. It is a collection of beauties we leave behind. If you're listening to this, and you're still in the safe part of your life, the part where you think you have time to be yourself later, I am pleading with you to stop. Don't quit your job if you have bills to pay, but don't let that job define the borders of your soul. Find the woodworking in your own life. Find the thing that makes you forget to check your phone. Find the person you've been meaning to forgive and do it tonight. Take the trip, buy the expensive paints, write the poem that you think is silly. Stop asking for permission to inhabit your own existence. You are the only one who can grant it. I'm tired now. The sun is going down, and the shadows in the workshop are getting long. I have a few more hours of work left on this rocking chair. I don't know if I'll finish it. The doctors say the next round of treatment might be the one that keeps me in bed for good. But I'm going to try. And if I don't finish it, that's okay too. Because I died trying to be the man I was supposed to be, rather than living as the man I was expected to be. And there is a profound peace in that. I've been reading a lot lately. When the pain gets bad, I turn to the words of people who walked this path before me. If you're looking for a way to start your own awakening, I'd suggest you pick up a few books. When Breath Becomes Air by Kalanithi, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. They aren't just books, they're maps. This channel, the one you're watching right now, it's a place for stories like mine. It's a place for the things we've learnt the hard way, so that maybe, just maybe, you can learn them the easy way. If this spoke to you, if it stirred something in that quiet place you usually keep locked up, then subscribe. Stay a while, we have more to talk about, and I want to hear from you. Truly, what is the woodworking in your life? What is the thing you've been putting off until someday? Leave a comment, state it clearly. Sometimes saying it out loud to a stranger is the first step toward making it real. And if you have a story of your own, a realization, a memory, a piece of hard-won wisdom, there's a link in the description to a form. Fill it out. Share your voice. We need more truth in this world, and less noise. The kettle is whistling upstairs. Martha is calling. I think I'll go sit with her and just watch the birds for a while. My name is Arthur. I have stage 4 cancer, and for the first time in 74 years, I am finally, truly alive. Don't wait for a scan to tell you the same thing. Live now, while you still can.